New contract language out of the Bay Area is raising eyebrows across the league, and all centers on how Golden State structured Kristaps Porzingis' extension. On the surface, it looked like a simple retention move. Underneath, it reads like a front office keeping every door open. Hey, what's up, everyone? Before we jump into everything today, that like button right there is what decides if this video hits hundreds or thousands of people. 1 second is all it takes, but the impact on this channel is massive. Go ahead and hit that like button right now. Seriously, it's the simplest thing you can do, and honestly, the best way to back this content up because every single like pushes us further. So hit it now. The Warriors and Porzingis agreed to a 2-year, $40 million extension shortly before free agency opened. At first glance, that appeared to lock in a veteran big man as the starting center heading into next season. But once the fine print became public, the picture changed. Only $3 million of that second season is actually guaranteed. Everything else is protection for Golden State, not a promise to Porzingis. That detail matters because it mirrors almost exactly what the Warriors did a year ago with Jonathan Kuminga. After a long, intense restricted free agency standoff, Golden State signed Kuminga to a 2-year deal worth just under $47 million, with a team option attached to year 2. That option gave the front office total control. They could keep him, trade him, or simply decline the option whenever it suited them. The Atlanta Hawks, who eventually acquired Kuminga, chose to decline that very option earlier this week, just before free agency opened, cutting ties with almost no long-term financial commitment. Porzingis' deal follows the same blueprint, just with different language. Because his second-year money carries only a small guarantee, any team holding his contract next summer can walk away for a fraction of the listed salary. It functions like a team option, even though it is technically structured as a player option. The effect is identical. Maximum flexibility, minimum risk. There is a second layer that makes this even more significant. Because the deal is structured as an extension rather than a brand new free agent signing, Porzingis becomes immediately eligible to be traded. Players who sign new deals in free agency normally have to wait months before they can be moved. Porzingis does not have to wait at all. None of this means Golden State intends to move on from Porzingis right away. He remains a presumptive starting center and one more skilled offensive big man on the roster, capable of stretching the floor and protecting the rim in a way few others on the team can. His fit next to the Warriors' perimeter shooters is obvious, and there is no indication the front office is actively shopping him. But the structure of this deal gives him the option to pivot quickly if a better opportunity presents itself, without absorbing significant financial risk if they do. That is precisely why so many fans and analysts reacted with confusion when the top-line numbers first came out. A 2-year, $40 million deal for a player who appeared in a limited number of games last season, split between 2 different teams, looked like an overpay at first read. Porzingis was acquired by Golden State in a February trade that sent Kuminga and veteran shooter Buddy Hield the other way, and his availability was a question mark for much of the year. Once the guarantee structure became clear, though, the reaction shifted. This was never a blank check commitment. It was a calculated bridge deal that protects the roster's flexibility while still keeping a useful center in the fold for now. Comparing the 2 situations side by side tells the real story. Kuminga's team option, like Golden State and later Atlanta, cut ties cleanly after 1 season. Porzingis' lightly guaranteed second year does the same thing in practice, even if the paperwork label is different. Both moves reflect a front office prioritizing optionality over long-term certainty, especially with so much roster movement happening across the league this offseason. It also puts Porzingis in a strange spot personally. He now carries a contract that makes him one of the most easily movable pieces on the roster, despite being viewed as more of an on-court fit for this era of the team than Kuminga ever was as a fit alongside the Warriors' veteran core. Unlike Kuminga, whose relationship with the coaching staff and role in the offense had been a source of tension for years, Porzingis slots in cleanly as a stretch center who does not need the ball to be effective. That difference in fit is exactly why many around the team still expect him to open the season in Golden State's rotation. Still, the trade eligibility clause changes the calculus for how the front office can operate over the next several weeks. If a deal for a bigger name becomes available, Porzingis' contract is now one of the more flexible trade chips on the roster, capable of matching salary in a broader deal without requiring the same wait period that hampered roster building a year ago. Fans already began floating hypothetical trade packages within hours of the extension becoming official, even before the ink had time to dry. For now, the expectation around the organization is that Porzingis stays put and starts the season anchoring the front court. But the way this contract was built tells its own story. Golden State did not simply re-sign a player they liked. They engineered a deal that lets them change direction on short notice if the right opportunity appears, treating retention and flexibility as two goals that do not have to cancel each other out. Golden State entered free agency believing Kristaps Porzingis' new contract had settled the center position for next season. A closer look at how that deal was written suggests the front office actually gave itself a trade weapon, not just a roster piece. The structure comes down to one technical distinction. Porzingis signed what is classified as a contract extension rather than a fresh free agent deal. That distinction matters enormously under league rules. Players who sign new contracts in free agency typically cannot be traded until well into the following season. Because Porzingis' deal is an extension, that waiting period does not apply to him. He is tradable right now, the same week his new contract became official. It is unlikely Golden State turns around and moves Porzingis immediately after re-signing him. But the timing of this development is impossible to ignore. It comes in the middle of one of the most active stretches of the Warriors' offseason, with the front office deeply engaged in trade conversations involving Washington Wizards big man Anthony Davis. Those discussions reportedly center on a package built around Jimmy Butler's expiring contract, worth roughly $57 million, as Butler continues to recover from a torn ACL. Hashtag where Porzingis fits into the bigger picture. On its own, Porzingis' new salary is not large enough to be the centerpiece of a deal for a player of Davis's caliber. But it gives Golden State a mid-sized, easily combinable contract to work with if they want to build out a broader trade package or pursue a different upgrade altogether. That flexibility became more important after Draymond Green opted out his $27 million player option, removing what had previously been the second largest expiring or movable salary on the roster behind Butler. Before this development, Moses Moody's $12.5 million contract was the next most useful trade chip after Butler and Green's now vacated deal. With Porzingis added to that mix, Golden State suddenly has more paths available. The front office could combine Porzingis, Moody, and the smaller salaries of players like Brandon Podziemski or Guay Santos to construct an offer capable of bringing back a player earning up to roughly $35 million, all while keeping Butler in place to continue his recovery rather than including him in a deal. That last point matters. Rushing Butler into a trade while he is still working his way back from a serious knee injury would mean selling him at a discount. Having other combinable pieces gives the Warriors a way to pursue an upgrade without needing to move their best trade asset before he has had a chance to prove his health. Hashtag the center question if Porzingis is moved. There's a real complication if Golden State does eventually use Porzingis in a trade. Right now, he and veteran big man Al Horford are the only two true centers on the roster. Horford, entering his 20th NBA season, is expected to come off the bench in a limited role, likely cap around 20 to 22 minutes a night given his age and workload management needs. That leaves very little depth at the position if Porzingis is dealt away for a player at a different spot on the roster. If the front office does trade Porzingis, they would need a clear plan to fill that void, whether through another trade, a free agent signing, or an internal answer already on the roster. Simply flipping him for perimeter talent without addressing the center spot would create a new problem while solving another. That is a significant factor working in favor of Porzingis staying put, even with his newfound trade flexibility. Hashtag what this means to the Warriors' offseason approach. The most likely outcome, based on how the front office has operated, is that Porzingis begins the season in Golden State's starting lineup exactly as his new contract initially suggested. He remains a legitimate offensive weapon at the position, someone who can space the floor and protect the rim in ways that complement the roster's veteran perimeter players. But the trade-eligible structure of his deal is not something the front office stumbled into by accident. It reflects a broader pattern this offseason of building in flexibility everywhere possible, whether through option years, lightly guaranteed money, or contract types that avoid restrictive waiting periods. With serious star pursuits still playing out around the league, including ongoing scenarios involving Anthony Davis and the broader chase for a marquee free agent addition, Golden State wants every tool available if an opportunity to upgrade the roster suddenly appears. For now, nothing suggests an imminent move involving Porzingis, but his contract quietly expanded the list of options available to front office at exactly the moment those options might matter most, giving Golden State more paths to a bigger roster shakeup without having to gut the depth chart to get there. While most of the basketball world spent Tuesday focused on free agency, one blockbuster trade landed that directly benefits the Golden State Warriors, even though their name was never involved in the deal itself. The Los Angeles Clippers have agreed to send Kawhi Leonard back to the Toronto Raptors, closing the loop on one of the more surprising player movements of the offseason. According to ESPN's Shams Charania, the Clippers are sending Leonard to Toronto in exchange for Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, 2 first-round picks, 1 first-round pick swap, and 2 second-round picks. It marks a full-circle moment for Leonard, who left the Raptors for the Clippers in free agency back in 2019, a move the Clippers made possible by also trading for Paul George in a deal that sent a young, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who has since become a 2-time MVP, out of Los Angeles along with a large haul of draft assets. Hashtag why this matters for Golden State. The Warriors were not previously connected to trade rumors involving Leonard this week, but they did have real interest in acquiring him earlier in the year, before a mid-season trade sent him elsewhere. That interest has since gone quiet, following a similar pattern to how Golden State's rumored pursuit of Milwaukee's Giannis Antetokounmpo cooled off before he was ultimately dealt to Miami Heat last week. Even without landing Leonard themselves, the Warriors stand to gain simply because a direct Western Conference and Pacific Division rival just got significantly weaker. The Clippers were already trending toward a rebuild before this trade, having moved on from veteran guard James Harden and starting center Ivica Zubac ahead of the regular season trade deadline. Losing Leonard, their best player and a 2-time Finals MVP, accelerates that shift dramatically for a Warriors team looking to reclaim postseason positioning in a crowded Western Conference. Having one fewer contender standing between them and a top playoff seed is a meaningful development, even if it happened on someone else's roster. Hashtag a history worth remembering. Leonard's history with Golden State adds an extra layer to this story. He was the driving force behind the Raptors' championship run in 2019, a series that ended the Warriors' run of consecutive NBA Finals appearances and became one of the more painful chapters of that era for the franchise. Seeing him return to the team that beat Golden State in that Finals, 6 years after leaving for Los Angeles, closes a strange circle in the sport's recent history, even if it has little direct bearing on this year's roster. Golden State's recent head-to-head record against the Clippers has been rough. Outside of eliminating them in this year's play-in tournament, the Warriors had won just one of their previous 11 regular season matchups against Los Angeles. A Clippers team without Leonard, and clearly moving into a different competitive phase, removes some of that pressure heading into next season. Hashtag the bigger picture around the league. This trade did not happen in isolation. It landed within hours of another major development involving the Los Angeles Lakers, who saw LeBron James become available in free agency, with strong indications he could be headed to Golden State. If the Warriors are able to sign James and potentially pair that move with a trade for Anthony Davis, the timing of the Leonard trade becomes even more significant. Both Los Angeles franchises, the Clippers and the Lakers, are dealing with major star departures in the same short window, while Golden State works to add star power of its own. That combination could shift the balance of power in the Pacific Division rather quickly. Beyond the 2 Los Angeles teams, the division includes the Phoenix Suns and Sacramento Kings, neither of which currently profiles as a dominant contender. If the Warriors can capitalize on this moment by adding proven star talent, while their 2 closest geographic rivals both retool, they would be positioned to reclaim a level of divisional supremacy they have not held in some time. Hashtag what comes next. Golden State's front office will likely stay focused on its own roster business in the days ahead, rather than reacting publicly to a trade they were not part of. The Warriors have their own pressing decisions to work through, from finalizing Kristaps Porzingis' new frontcourt role to sorting out how a potential Jimmy Butler trade package might come together around a run at Anthony Davis. Those storylines will keep dominating headlines out of the Bay Area regardless of what happens elsewhere. But the ripple effects of the Leonard deal are real. Every step the Clippers take away from a stacked veteran core toward youth and draft capital widens the gap between them, and a Warriors roster still built to win now. A gap that matters in a Western Conference, where seeding often comes down to a couple of regular season wins. A weaker Clippers team, a Lakers team in transition after James' looming exit, and a wide-open Western Conference picture all work in Golden State's favor. None of it required the Warriors to give up a single asset for a franchise trying to climb back into true contention. Sometimes the most useful trades are the ones that happen to somebody else, and Tuesday's reshuffling in Los Angeles and Toronto is exactly that kind of gift.